An Austin couple in the middle of a desperate rescue mission.
I do remember picking him up at the airport, and he got in the car, and this is the third time I'd ever seen him cry.
They leave their life in Texas behind.
And by May of 2009, we're in Uganda.
Not knowing what to expect as they encounter a young girl in trouble.
I was 9 years old. I had no idea what had just happened, but I knew it was wrong.
Against all odds, two unlikely worlds collide that will set in motion an organization that will save even more young girls. And this bold mission is just beginning. Tonight, we're focusing the next half hour on the power of change and how a local group is saving lives. There's a famous quote in the Bible that says, "Seek and you shall find." Scott and Sarah Lambie were seeking purpose in life when they were thrust into the middle of a desperate rescue mission, and in the process, got rescued themselves. It's all because of a beautiful, brave young woman. Now their mission is to rescue one more.
Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank you for all the connections that you've brought alongside
Vanessa
you.
Lambie asked to say a prayer for strength and guidance before sharing her story, a story most people would have a hard time getting through. It's also a hard story to hear, so this is a warning to viewers. Vanessa's story involves sexual violence that is disturbing, but she believes her story needs to be told to help others.
In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Like, this is family, this is sisters and siblings, this is like first time camping and seeing a deer.
So I grew up in this small landlocked country in Africa, right next to Kenya, above Tanzania, those areas, tiny little country. It's the Pearl of Africa. That means we have like the most beautifulest everything.
Vanessa Lambie grew up in a small village in Uganda.
As you finish your chores, you'd go around and play a game. It's like dodgeball, but it's like a more Africanized version of dodgeball. A ball is made out of plastic bags and paper and a rock in the middle.
But one night, the play and laughter stopped.
And one night, when I was 9 years old, because my uncle lived down like in the compound, he called me down and he asked me to go buy him a beer.
Vanessa says there were no alcohol age restrictions in her village, so she says a 9-year-old could buy a beer.
He drank pretty heavily, and as I went to get him the beer, I came back and he called me to his room.
Then with 8 of his children watching TV nearby,
and he called me to his bedroom, closed the door, and as I handed him the beer, he forced himself on me and he raped me. I was 9 years old. I had no idea what had just happened, but I knew it was wrong. It was painful, and after that happened, he told me to not tell anybody about it. He used threats of beating me.
the abuse went on daily for months. A world away,
Things were going well.
Scott and Sarah Lambie were climbing the corporate ladder, and quickly.
I was working in tech. Started our family in Austin in '98.
I was doing PR and marketing for startups.
We had everything we could possibly need or want, and we thought that that was the pinnacle of success and the pursuit of happiness and what brings you happiness.
Kind of just checking all the boxes, trying to achieve the dream, right? We had just moved into a bigger house. We had a couple of nice cars, all the things. But something was really missing.
So the Lambies went on a search, seeking meaning, purpose. That led them to a local church.
We couldn't fill the hole ourselves.
My wife wanted to join a church. I thought that was a bit out there at the time, but I went along and listened.
Then that led Scott to a mission trip in Kenya to help children.
There was some post-election violence in the slums in Kenya, and these kids had witnessed horrific things.
Scott's team came in with support and food, and he witnessed something he'd never forget.
I'd never seen poverty that extreme. And to see these little children who had just witnessed massive amounts of violence and coming out of absolutely nothing were happy and full of joy and really appreciative that we were there.
Then Scott made a life-changing decision.
I do remember picking him up at the airport, and he got in the car, and this is the third time I'd ever seen him cry.
And I said, I think we're going to Africa.
And I said, I think you're right, let's go.
And she was 100% on board.
Back in Uganda, things were getting worse for Vanessa. The sexual abuse was constant. So she gathered the courage to speak out to her father about being raped by her uncle.
And when I told him, he looked at me and he was like, your uncle is doing the right thing. He is preparing you for marriage.
Then just when she thought it couldn't get any darker.
After I told my dad, he did the same thing to me. He went ahead and abused me as well for a total of a year.
So in a bold, desperate escape, she went in search of a police station to report it. The days-long journey took her through the streets of Uganda. One night, it started to rain, so she found shelter in a church.
It's nighttime, about to rain. I go at the back of the church and I sleep.
That night, she had a vision.
And that vision had a bright light and then 3 things in the front of it. And the 3 things were a book, a family, and an airplane. And I didn't pay attention to it. I didn't know what that was.
After the mission trip to Kenya, Scott and Sarah decided to sell everything they could and move to Uganda to help children.
And yeah, what it looked like was selling and giving away everything we owned. Literally, we sold everything or gave it away, and we got on a plane and we went.
And by May of 2009, we were in Uganda.
Now all of their worlds are about to come together in a powerful way that will set in motion a great rescue mission, and it all starts in Austin, Texas. Welcome back. Austinites Scott and Sarah Lambie are starting a new life in Uganda now. They're all in, leaving the comforts of Austin, Texas behind to start a new adventure and find new meaning in life and in service. Vanessa is now fighting to survive in a cycle of abuse in her village from her father and uncle. Everyone told her to just be quiet, except one brave neighbor.
I went to a neighbor finally one time and I told her what was happening. And she's like, I can't help you. I don't want to get involved, but I'm going to give you 500 shillings, which is like 20 cents. Go get a taxi and go to the police station. Mind you, I had never been to a police station. I had never been outside of my village. I had no idea where I was going.
And it was at that police station their worlds collide. The Lambies have no idea what's about to hit them.
I went over and talked to her, and she started to cry, and she hugged me, and it was like, okay, we'll take her home.
And because of that meeting, it would set in motion an organization based out of Austin that is stopping abuse and saving lives. Welcome back. When we left off, the Lambies were just starting their new life in Uganda, and Vanessa was able to pull off a desperate escape with a cab ride and instructions to find a police station. Now, all of their worlds are about to collide, setting in motion an Austin-based nonprofit that is saving young women and putting predators in jail. Scott started working for the African Children's Choir.
Yeah, the African Children's Choir focuses on quality education for children from very impoverished situations.
They toured the world, but after about 2.5 years, the Lambies were thinking about returning to Texas, but we're not really sure what to do.
My husband had signed a 3-year contract, so we initially thought we'd be going for 3 years.
I was really entrenched, and we had an opportunity to stay longer, but we weren't sure. It's like this decision that you are constantly weighing in on and trying to figure out.
It was 2011. That's when fires ravaged Central Texas.
And then our house that we had rented out in Steiner Ranch burned down.
2011 fires took out something like 33 houses in Steiner Ranch, and ours is one of them. We decided, well, we're going to stay. That kind of made our decision for us.
Now, all of their lives were about to intersect. Vanessa finally found a police station and tried to file a report.
And one policeman is like, what do you want? And I look at him and I tell him my story. And he looks at me confused. And he's like, I don't know what to do with you.
Vanessa was put in a jail cell to keep her safe. Then police arrested her uncle.
So they put my uncle in a jail cell, and then at night they're like, you have to have somewhere to sleep. They put me in a cell next to my uncle. And it was the safest place for me to be at. There was nowhere else for me to sleep. And it was just that night, I was very relieved. Someone has heard my story. I don't have to live in that abuse every single day.
Her uncle was bailed out and went back to the village. But Vanessa was kept safe in that jail cell for 2 weeks and was released into the care of a child welfare officer. That's when the Lambies just happened to stop into the office to adopt 2 children and needed some paperwork done.
And he looked at me and he looked at Scott and he said, I can't help you today. There's this little girl.
Yeah, that was Vanessa. She was just sitting on the ground, looking pretty hopeless.
And they were talking to the probation officer. He told them what my story was, and he explained that he had nowhere to place me or put me, even for that night.
And I went over and talked to her, and she started to cry, and she hugged me, and it was like, okay, we'll take her home. We fell in love with Vanessa, and she became part of our family, so.
The Lambies adopted Vanessa, and 3 years later, headed back home to the U.S.
I am safe. I am protected, and I don't have to be dreading every single night. I got shown so much love.
On the journey to her new home, she remembered that vision in the church.
So I realized that as I was on the plane, everything that I had seen in that vision with a bright light, and the 3 things, a praying, family, and a book, it was all true in this moment.
She just got her new family. She started schooling and was on a plane back to the United States. But the story was not over. After finishing high school in Central Texas, she had another dream that she shared with her new dad.
We were driving down, and I don't even remember where we're going, but we were just driving down Nutty Brown, and we pulled up to the stoplight, and she said,
Hey, Dad, I think I'm ready to tell my story to help the girls in Uganda that are going through the same thing.
She wanted to go back to Uganda, tell her story, and rescue one more.
These are girls that have gone through the same thing as me, or even worse.
That dream launched the Rescue One More organization. It seemed impossible, but the Lambies set up child advocacy centers in Uganda to support victims and arrest offenders.
and so in the last 3 years, with that infrastructure in place, we've been able to rescue 99 girls and arrest 135 perpetrators and keep them in jail, which is a monumental task when you have a corrupt police force. But these teams working together have helped us curb that corruption and keep the bad guys in jail where they belong.
My hope for the future is to bring an end to child sexual violence in Uganda.
Now Vanessa and the Lambies are on a mission to rescue as many girls as they can.
I'm hoping that the cause and the nonprofit outlives generations. My hope is for a girl to be able to say, I had no place to go. Everyone around me was not. For a girl who has been in that situation to come up and say, I survived because I had someone there for the situation I have been in. And to raise a new generation of girls who are going to fight boldly, and for girls who have been through the same situation and more, to rescue one more and one more until there's none to be rescued. Yes, that's my mission.
Leaders on board to make sure that we fight this vice together, because we discovered that fighting this alone is not possible. You need a whole team. You need the community to come in.
When we come back, the latest from Uganda and the new numbers of girls rescued by Vanessa's vision and the Rescue One More team. So the Lambies found their purpose, their vision, but had no idea how to start rescuing abused girls a world away in Uganda, or how to start setting up shelters. That's where some Texas child advocates, mentors, lawyers, and people on the front lines come into the story. They basically handed the Lambies their playbook and said, we believe in this, and we are going to help you.
We knew that this approach of creating multidisciplinary teams that the Children's Advocacy Centers use would work in Uganda.
Armed with the playbook, the Lambies and Rescue One More went to work. The key? A synchronized network on the ground in each district. It's called a community action team. This is how it's working in Uganda now.
We have the police on board. We have the probation officers on board. We are also dealing with the Justice Center here in Mukono.
When we come back, the latest numbers and the impact they're making in Uganda. Since March of 2021, Rescue One More has helped 401 children, rescued 143 girls, and arrested 257 predators. They just opened up a new shelter and partnered with the International Justice Mission to prosecute rape cases committed to the High Court. If you would like to get involved, here is their website. Of course, they would welcome any contributions, but they're also looking for volunteers and expertise in the areas of child counseling and legal services. We hope this special inspired you to follow your passions, seek purpose, and create change in this world where you see something that's breaking your heart. I'm Walt Macaborski. Have a good night.